What does it take to shake up the traditional agency model and build a thriving creative studio in today's fast-paced landscape? That's exactly what we're going to explore today with our guest Barrington Reeves, founder and creative director of Too Gallus in Glasgow. Barrington has built something pretty special, an agile, culture-driven studio that's redefining what small agencies can achieve. In our chat, we look at how Too Gallus has embraced the disruption of the traditional agency model, what's fueling this shift, and how smaller teams are carving out a niche in a challenging industry and time. We'll talk about everything from the art of pitching and building strong client relationships to fostering a creative team culture that's truly connected to its roots. Barrington also opens up about his entrepreneurial drive, his bold vision for the future, and what it means to truly live up to the name Too Gallus. So what does it really take to make your mark in the creative world today? Stay with us to find out more. We're talking today, Barrington, about the traditional agency model being a bit flipped on its head and changing as we know it for various reasons, which we'll dive into. But you and I connected earlier this year talking about how there's this rise of smaller studios again and how it kind of feels a bit different this time compared to the cycle last time when we had the global economic crisis of 2008, was it? But this time around, there's loads of other aspects at play, aren't there? And you've done very well from this development.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd say we've really capitalized on it. We've been probably very lucky at being at the kind of forefront of like an emerging trend, and I guess just being young enough and agile enough to kind of catch it on its crest. But yeah, it's such an exciting time, I think, to be like a small agency. The opportunities that are being offered to agencies our size are incredible. I don't think they've been seen previously. But it is also a really challenging landscape for different reasons to be in a big agency is. But yeah, it's super interesting. It's really still evolving, which I think is really interesting. And I'm still learning a lot about it and still kind of figuring out, where we land and where we can go and how to best capitalize on it.
Where's the demand coming from? Is it coming from new sort of opportunities to do with like the changing tech landscape, or is it coming from clients who are realizing that actually they don't need huge agencies anymore to run their campaigns or come up with new work?
Honestly, I think it is a real mix of both of those. Tech is evolving at a rate that I think we've never seen before. And for me, a big part of that is kind of like the democratisation of tech, and just how powerful tech has become. So for instance, we've got a guy in our office, Danny, incredible 3D CGI motion designer, works on Houdini, but like the processing power that is in the PC that sits under his desk that we could afford to buy as a relatively small agency is the tech that could only have been afforded by a really, really big agency 10 years ago. So like the access to like tech in that regard from like a pure hardware point of view has actually meant that small teams are capable of moving and like actioning projects that would have before, almost like logistically and financially only have been achievable for really big studios. And when you couple that with the access and like democratization of learning, you've got a really powerful recipe then. Actually speaking about this to Danny yesterday, he said, 10 years ago, the only way to learn everything from his software, which is Houdini, which is like a physics-based, node-based program, would be to sit down and read the documentation or have someone teach you, so you had to kind of go into a big agency and get someone to teach it, or you had to just sit down and, flick through thousands and thousands of pages of documentation. Now, everyone now sees the way to like grow their platform and, show how creative they are is by teaching, so everybody is on YouTube now doing a tutorial. If you want to find out how to do anything, you pop it into YouTube, you'll get an amazing explainer. So you don't have to have, the elder creative wizard in the corner, passing down his pearls of wisdom to you. You just jump on, check out, how can we solve this incredibly, complex creative problem? And you learn it there, and then you follow step by step, and, you've done something that was not achievable, 10 years ago. When you couple that, and I think, take that through into client side as well, I think the actual creative intellect level, because of things like that across the board, is just so much higher than it ever has been. I think like brand managers are so much more well informed than they ever have been. Everyone knows so much more about strategy, so much more about, copy, so much more about marketing in general. So I think like the language and the level that's used at corporate and client side now is so high that they don't have this need to be like handheld as much as they used to. So actually they can work far more directly with like smaller, more agile studios like us in a much cleaner way. Whereas I think, you used to have someone at client side who was maybe like a marketing director who knew a lot about their side, but knew almost nothing about, the creative side. And, the two work together. Whereas now it's very hand in hand. And we were brought in to do these kind of small specialist jobs that the in-house team actually already kind of know quite a lot about. They're quite well informed. The brief's really well formed. They know exactly what they want. They know how they want it to act. So the client are in a much better place than they ever have been before to use agencies like us and use us really effectively.
So they have more agile teams and you have the same, and everybody's working more collaboratively. So it feels very different to what I remember when I first got into it all, even just 15 or when was it, 17 years ago, when back then there was a very big difference in that you would get very defined benefits and downsides of either going with a larger traditional agency or the agile lean studio with maybe even just 3 or 4 people working. And in that the client would know working with a smaller team, they would be treated like royalty. But with the larger agency, they might not be a priority and things might be very slow. So has that changed as well, do you think?
Yes and no. I think it's really important to look at the type of work that small studios are brought in to do. And, this is something that I maybe didn't have too much of a handle on until I spoke to, my like quote unquote mentor, Pam Scobie from John Doe. Incredible women, incredible creative. And I was saying like, talking about our aspirations, our dreams for, where we want to take the agency, what we want to do. And she was like, look, you will always be brought in to do the really cool execution, to do the really fun piece of like motion. She's like, but, Nike aren't going to give you a global creative retainer because that's not what you can offer. You don't have the manpower there or like the logistics to service that account. And I think, not enough kind of credence is given to that and not enough people talk about. So when you are a small studio, you're constantly thinking, well, I want to work up to, doing these really big projects. And then when I want to get this client, then I want to get them on retainer. But there's a definite gap between, what we can offer and what a lot of people want to do. And I think it's looking at what are the problems that small agencies are brought in to solve. And I sat down recently and kind of characterized all of our projects because, as a very small agency, things have moved really quickly. They've been expanding. They've been, moving at a rate that I almost can't keep up with. So I have to sit down constantly and write down like, okay, these are the projects we've had in. This is the characteristics of it. This was how long it took. This is the budget that it was. And I always thought, when we get really big, are not really big, but when we're really experienced and, we've got skin in the game and we've got a great portfolio, I was like, our project times will like scale out and we'll get longer and longer to work on things, and we'll get, bigger budgets, and we'll get to really sit and do this like review process. Because I looked at agencies who had been in the game for a long time, and that's what their process looked like. Now, the budgets have went up astronomically as we've grown, but the lead times have come down and down and down and down to the point that we're working on like global campaigns, like really seriously global pieces of work. The last one we done for an amazing global skincare brand, we had like 4 days to do it.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I married up the kind of chat that I had with her and the characteristics of all these projects with, well, what is driving this? And it's in-house teams come to small teams to, I've always said our agency is like, we're like the creative SAS. We're like the creative, Secret Service bomb squad. Like we are in super specialised, we've got the whole team sitting around a table. It's really scrappy. We're really involved. We're really like back and forth with the client, lots of chopping it up. We can think fast, we can move, we can pivot. We have the ability to do that. And that is why in-house teams take small teams like us to work as like a really, really agile unit. If a company in-house wants to do that really, really long process, I think they're probably going to go to like a bigger agency who, are going to wine and dine them and have the account managers on it. And so, yeah, I think it's really interesting, and we're getting loads of cool work and really exciting projects. But I think like really taking that lens of saying like, okay, well, why from a client's point of view do they want to hire a team like us? And then rather than trying to like, wish for projects that we're not going to get, look at how can we make ourselves as effective a team to, answer those kind of briefs as possible.
It's great. You've kind of had that reassurance from somebody with a bit more experience as a mentor, and it's given you the confidence to say, okay, so that isn't the ultimate goal. Actually, there's this great opportunity right in front of us. All we have to do is be really confident about who we are and who we're targeting, really lean into that, and, the magic will happen, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, if the goal is to get those big creative retainers, that looks like a totally different exercise in-house. That looks like bringing on lots of hands who can, who are just there to make, lots of account managers who are there to like manage and oversee, lots of PMs. And I'm like, you need to, as a business owner, you need to look and say, well, is that what I want the inside of my agency to look like? Is that the type of work that we want to do? And when we sat down and done it, I was like, that's actually not what we want at all. Actually, what we want is to be doing really cool creative briefs. We want to keep ourselves really energized. We want to be able to be really agile. If Nike turned around tomorrow and said, do you want a retainer? I would have to sack all of my other clients realistically. And that's not what I want to do. I want to have that really wide, varied client portfolio and offering. So yeah, I think like looking at the type of work that's asked of big agencies and is asked of little agencies or small agencies is super important when you look at this conversation.
Yeah.
We're never gonna, we're never gonna replace those big agencies and being able to just farm out, a lot of creative, which is what a lot of companies also need.
And they're struggling, by the way. I know of at least 3 big studios in London who are closing their doors at the end of this year, which, of course, I can't mention the names, but
it's a shame.
It is a shame.
I think it's a really, really difficult time. And I think a lot of those agencies are kind of living on the edge. And we see it up here a lot in Scotland where, a lot of these clients kind of live or die on the sword of one client. And I think that's a really, really dangerous position to be in. We just, Scottish government a couple of months ago announced that they were cutting like 6 million of creative funding. And for like some of like Scotland's biggest agencies, that was just like that was like a death sentence. I don't know how they've recovered from it, or if Scottish government have committed more spend. But these agencies existed to just kind of like furnish one client with like creative work that they need. But that's just like a volume of work. And yeah, I think those types of agencies are really suffering. It's because there is a global economic issue, and marketing and design is often one of the first places to get the axe. It is often seen as a luxury spend. So when CFOs come in, sometimes they are like, okay, well, the nice creative campaign that you wanted to do, your nice retainer, got those
Gone in a
things are the first to
heartbeat.
go. Yeah.
I know. Been there, done that, seen it happen to lots of friends over the years. And what's the kind of feeling of the UK economy right now? Does it feel prosperous and promising, or is it everybody's kind of just like, oh, let's wait until see what happens next year? Or has 2024 been really tough? Because I get lots of insight when I'm chatting to people, and according to a lot of people, mostly I'd say 80% of the people I've chatted with have said 2024 has been their worst year to date, which is very depressing.
Yeah, I think, to take the read on the UK economy, I think it has been difficult for a lot of people. We have, I guess, really luckily positioned ourselves in a few niches that haven't been declining, and also like being kind of fairly widely spread out globally. Not a lot of like I'd say 50% of our clients are UK based, but I'd say only about 20 to 30% of our revenue is UK based. And then, the other 70 or 80% of our revenue is global. So we're really lucky in that when UK kind of declines, we've got clients in Copenhagen and Canada, and the States who are, not experiencing the same problems, and being in some of the niches that we're in. We do a lot of work in luxury. Luxury is, funnily just one of those places that kind of doesn't ever decline. The wealthy one.
Even during times of austerity and people are, watching their pennies, the luxury market does very well indeed, doesn't it? It's bonkers.
Yeah, it seems to always do well. Unfortunately, I think that's the way UK politics is going, is that and Western politics, that the wealthy will always get wealthier. So our clients always have creative to service there.
Yeah, I mean, I do like my nice things, Barrington.
Yeah, and I think that's.
I don't.
I think even post COVID, we really noticed that when the first big dip happened, that it was all the kind of middle of the road and like little treats brands that really got the axe. Like health. Like health drink companies, people were no longer like, I'm going to spend £6 on a smoothie, but they were still going to buy like, £500 shoes. They were much more, people became more discerning with where they spent their money.
Yeah.
And we noticed that. So we were really lucky that we've landed in a couple of niches that haven't declined. We're in a lot of skincare and cosmetics, which is just so on the up that it's almost bucking the trend of the economic down.
Insanely.
It's one of those places that people are looking to invest their money, and they really see it as like I'm investing in myself. So
oh god, yeah. It's huge. Skincare, I mean, just in my circle of friends, we're all at that age in our mid-40s. Things are getting crinkly. I think I've done okay.
I've become a total skincare buff. Like I'm like really into cosmetics and skincare as a creative landscape. I think it's such an amazing like playground for creative. So yeah, being in luxury, being in skincare, we're in a lot of drinks, and we're in a lot of like D2C. We're almost all D2C consumer based. So, I think a lot of the downturn has been in corporate B2B, but that's not a world that we've ever massively played in. So yeah, we're lucky that we kind of mess up. But yeah, it seems like it seems like it has been a really, really tough time for agencies here, and especially bigger agencies, because there isn't as much, fat to trim. And it's, redundancies come up, thick and fast when a client drops out, because you maybe have a full team who are just employed to service one client. Whereas our model of being really small and being really lean is that, we can prop up different areas of the business. And there's times in our team where, not so much recently, but last year, where our CGI designer had like 2 months of like no real big client work in. So that gave us an opportunity to really dip in and develop in that area, and do some learning, work on our case studies. And then the same in January, we had a pretty dry January for design. Our kind of all our clients in the UK got kind of cold feet. We had like 600k worth of like inquiries on the board in January, and by March, like just like none of them had come to fruition.
Oh,
Everyone
God.
for various reasons was just like, oh, we didn't get approval. And I heard a lot of that chat in the beginning from especially like bigger creative teams, like those bigger teams that we were talking about client side earlier on, that they were being told things like, yeah, you have your budget, but you can unlock, 50% of it after April or after summer, when we've hit X target. Whereas previously and historically, those clients would have had access to all of that budget at the start of the year, so they could have made bigger decisions at that point. So yeah, at that point, again, our graphic designer, our design director, Paddy, was, just working on personal stuff, working on developing our case studies, looking at us internally as an agency. But if we were a big agency, that would have looked like, probably a bunch of redundancies across
Yeah.
the board, realistically. And I think a lot of people don't want to be in that space anymore of hire and fire. It's become so much more frowned upon. And yeah, and I think that's another reason that teams are looking to keep themselves small and compact. There isn't this kind of grow against all odds.
How many of you are there now at Too Gallus?
There's 9 now.
Nice and lean. I like it. And you're all in the same space?
No, we're really, really wide. We cannot hire quick enough. Like, we really need more talent, to be honest. So probably got another couple of hires to do. But yeah, we are across strategy, brand identity, graphic design, 3D CGI, 3D, like motion and simulation and Houdini, web dev, and account management. So, like really, really kind of dispersed.
That's amazing. And what do you think's been your sort of secret? Like, we all want to know what's been the success behind this amazing growth during what has been a very challenging decade so far for many of us.
I think there's a few things that have contributed to it. I have like a very clear vision of what I want to contribute to the creative world and like what I want as a career. And I'm kind of like loud and proud about that. I speak about it. Every project I do is, focused on, me fulfilling that goal. Like, I want to create the best of the best every time. And because of that, early on, that's quite a big ambition to
No, I love
have, but,
it.
but it's become quite self-fulfilling. If you speak about it enough, eventually clients that resonate with that find their way to you. And we've really luckily found clients who are very ambitious, who want to push the boundaries, want to do something different, want to bring something, really exciting into the world. Also, just like, I'm really big about not being not being humble, but like giving our work its dues, talking about our work. I am like really big on just going for it, finding clients. Although I studied graphic design, my like two loves are, design and creativity, and like business. Like I love business. I love growing our business. I love finding clients. I love the sale. I love, pitching. So I get really fired up about that. And I think that is something that a lot of graphic designers traditionally struggle with. I think, a lot of graphic designers can be quite introverted and they don't like to big their own work up. And, and especially in Scotland, it can be seen as quite of a like, oh God, you don't say that. And
Really?
I'm like, no, man. I'm like, our work fucking rocks. It is sick. And it's really
It's
good.
great.
And you have to be your own champion. You can't count on other people championing you. And because of that, and because of that attitude, we have found other clients. We've found clients that feel similarly about our work, and they want to shout about our work. And we've found ourselves in circles of people that I never thought we would find ourselves in. But yeah, I think like having a vision for where we want to be, being clear on that, talking about the work, you have to market yourself. Posting a case study, every 6 months also is like not a marketing strategy. And I think a lot of design agencies think that is. They think like, yeah, cool. How like we done a brand for a restaurant, we'll post that case study and then like, yeah, we'll get a couple more restaurant clients. And yeah, you might, but it's very passive. So I think like you really need to sit and look at like where do I want to be? Where do I want my career to be? Where do I want my agency to go? For me, a big part of that is looking at like where is the gap then, and how do I bridge that gap? How do I get people to know about us? Especially how do I get the people that I want to know about us? And that's a big thing for me because I'm not from the world of a lot of the clients that we have. I grew up in a council estate and in Coatbridge, like in the East End of Glasgow. Like I'm not from the world of luxury goods, and some of the clients that we're working with just now are just like the biggest luxury names in the world. So I really had to look at, how do I find a way to those companies? How do I look for people that have a similar vision to me? How do I bridge those gaps and connect with them, and build really meaningful relationships that will take me to where I want to be. And it's been very purposeful about it. And I think a lot of design agencies come out of the back of their marketing strategy and their growth strategy is like, we'll do this project and it will lead to another project and that will lead to another project. And that's not enough to get, up there with the greats.
Yeah, well, you're doing very well. And isn't it amazing that it used to be a time where if you came from privilege and wealth, you could go to the best universities and that's when that magic would happen. That's when those circles would open. And now people like yourself and me, I didn't grow up in a council estate, but my parents did. And we can sort of frequent in circles that open doors for us. And that's because of the internet and everything that's come after it. So that's encouraging to hear. And one of my questions is going to be, do you pitch? Because pitching is kind of one of those contentious issues in the creative industry, isn't it? But I can imagine pitching brings about a lot of work.
We have pitched in the past. As a small team, it's a really difficult thing to do. So I will only do it for projects of a certain cost.
Yes.
Because for us to write a worthwhile pitch, a pitch that I'm proud of, you're offlining a bunch of services. And like when you only have 9 staff, or at the start of the summer we were 4, so if we were 4 people and we wanted to write a really good pitch, it usually meant that 3 of us were offline for however many days that took to do that pitch. And that meant that all other work just dead in the water, kind of stopped. So we don't do much of it. We have a really good like proposal template, and my ethos to it is like, you can see our work out in the wild. You can go online and listen to podcasts and read articles about us, and you can listen to testimonials from clients that we've got. You can see our quality of work, and we'll send you a really detailed proposal that outlines our process, deliverables, timelines. And I'm like, that should be enough for you to decide that you want to work with us. Now, luckily, like I said, because I work a lot on us as an agency and our position and talking about where we are and what we do and why we make decisions and why we do the type of work that we do. Most clients that come to us have kind of already decided that they want to work with us, and it goes
Perfect.
straight to a kind of like, how much do you have to spend? What do you want to achieve? And it's usually for us, it's a bit of like a cutting up in a numbers game and just making sure that we can satisfy them, and it will be a good project for them and it will be financially viable for us. So we don't need to pitch often, but yeah, if the right thing came along and a really good opportunity came up, yeah, I might pitch for it. And we have done in the past, and I actually think unfortunately most of our pitches we've not won.
It's tough though, isn't it? It's really tough. And bearing in mind that those bigger agencies will have exclusive teams that are purely there to work on pitches all the time.
It's not even bigger teams, but it's definitely like an experience thing. And a great example is recently we were reached out to by Glasgow Life. Yeah, about the rebrand of Glasgow Life, and it landed in the inbox. And I thought, fuck, this is amazing. This would be so good. This would be a game changer for us. Not the type of thing we would normally get. And I like poured my heart and soul into the pitch, and I thought it was really good. And when I got the scoring back, it was like, it's like, I think it's out of 100, and it was like 75, 85, 88. It was like, sorry, you have not won the pitch. And I was like, fuck, I thought that was quite a good score. And then Graham McGowan from Jam Hot actually won it.
That bastard. Graham, how dare you?
Yeah. Fuck. No, like hats off to them. The guys, like, they smash it. And I was like, fuck, they will knock this out the park. Like, they will do such a good job. But their scores were like 100, 100, 100. And I was like, okay.
Jesus.
But there is such a template for these things, and it is
I bet he sends them a Cliff Richard calendar. That's what it is.
that's what
Slipped
it is.
it under the desk. Have a gander on that. He's got his top off on February.
That would score 100 for me. But there's a definite art to it, and I think it is with these things, like especially most pitches in Scotland at least are like public contract. And it is like knowing the right things to say about your sustainability and the suppliers you use. And there's
ISOs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we just don't have that. And as like a small agency, I'm like, I almost feel like the agents, the company that sent it out to us, like Glasgow Life, I was like, you probably knew you weren't going to pick us, or you probably knew it would be impossible for us to win this pitch. And I was like, that for me, that's where I'm like, fuck. I'm like, you've cost me like 3 days, 4 days of work, and like putting off clients. And yes,
I don't think they realize.
No, I don't think they do. And it's like that, things like that. Then you're like, shit, that was really detrimental. So I don't mind, in-house teams with pitch for drink work, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I think it went to them. And even if we didn't win the pitch, then they probably looked and thought, fuck, those guys are really creative. Maybe these guys had a better idea, but I know something else might come out the back of that. Whereas I know at the end of like the public pitch, it's just going to be like, okay, well, they did not score 100%, and it'll just be like, put it away. So yeah, pitching where luckily we don't have to do it that much. Thankfully.
Great. Because you've got the good formula and you've got the good connections and you're confident in what you're doing. So why would you need to sort of prove yourself to somebody when you're going up against potentially 6 other studios and agencies? Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think pitching is only sort of relevant for a certain size of agency. And there's plenty, not to mop up, but there's plenty of other opportunities out there. It's just knowing.
It's so much more fun for us when we get a client that lands in our inbox. And for me, it's become such a nice thing of like, I get an email and it is like, oh my God, like, we love your work. Like, we must work with you. Like, we need to do this. We love this project that you worked on. We love that project that you worked on. And, like, starting a project with that energy is just like, it's beautiful. It is like, it creates such a synergetic relationship. You're meeting at a common ground. And I think that is really important for an agency client relationship.
And the hot lead turns into potentially a very long-term partner, which
Yeah,
for studios of your size is just gold.
super important. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And your personality, you've got the skill in terms of the creative, but you've also got the ability to talk to people and to pitch yourself, and you've got that confidence. As you say, not every graphic designer has that. A lot of people are very introverted. They just like to sort of be sent a
Like to love
brief,
to do the work.
crack on with it. And that's, do you know what? That's absolutely fine. And not everybody is set up to run a studio and grow a business. But where does that energy, that enthusiasm for growing something and seeing all the amazing little wins? Because I've always tried to think, where do I get this from? My parents were both teachers. You know, I grew up in a kind of small town with humble, family and humble beginnings. You know, I had a really good start, went to a good secondary school, comprehensive. But why is it, where do I get this entrepreneurial drive from? What is it? It's addictive, isn't it?
For me, it's like chasing that high of like you put a client on the board, someone that I'm like, pie in the sky, we're never going to get them. And 6 months later, a year later, they're in the inbox, or just even just like, a client coming in and being able to like an inquiry coming in and being able to take that from like an inquiry straight through to like getting them in, getting them signed, starting up. I love bringing people's visions to life. Like it really like fulfills me to like work with people on bringing like their dreams to life. And I really, I get so much from it. And I think like I'm always looking for that feeling. But yeah, I don't know where it came from. I definitely had like a great upbringing, a really like encouraging upbringing. The school that I went to really instilled in me that like you are going to do great things. Like you are meant to do more. My mum, honestly, like the best parent, guide, mentor you could ask for, always like pushed me like to excel, and I think gave me the confidence that if I wanted to do something, I could do it. So I think I've just brought that, right through my career with me. I just have a real entrepreneurial spark myself, like outside of design. My girlfriend always says like she can't take me anywhere. I can't do anything without thinking about how I would like monetize it. She says like if someone, if someone gave me like a bunch of bananas, I would sell 5 of them and eat one. so, so yeah,
I get
yeah,
it.
and I think that just comes full circle into the career. Like I've got a lot of kind of other little side projects that I do outside of Too Gallus, and I'll probably always will have, and I'm always looking for ways to build those projects into the agency now. That's like a big thing for us in 25 is to create like a Too Gallus like world, like a creative world that encompasses all of our little offshoot projects.
This is the dilemma now, because we are talking about the sort of shake-up of the traditional agency model and the creative industry and how it's changing. But you say you're growing, you can't hire people fast enough. Now you've got that dilemma. Oh, do I stay a certain size, or am I going to become, a 30-person machine, 50-person machine? What's the ambition? How high does it go?
That is like ever evolving for me. I think at the moment we will probably have to get to like around 15 people to service the type of work that we want to do, the level of projects that we want to get in. And, I've got ambition about the level of project that I would like to deliver. And I know the size of team that it takes to do that. And I can see like my team are doing amazingly right now. Like, but if, a big project landed in our lap tomorrow, I would really need to consciously take a decision to like either hire more people to do it, or to push out budget, push out timelines. So we're in that space right now where we are kind of at capacity. But yeah, I think for me personally, I want to be involved in the work. And we don't take on a lot of projects, or almost any projects that I am not hands on with. I have a handle in every single project that we do. And some regard or another, whether it's just the setup, writing the strategy. I still am like hands-on with a lot of like the formulation of the graphic design, but I employ, people who are, to be ruthless, like far more talented than me at graphic design to take those ideas right through to fruition, because I think that's what
It's the best way to do
growing
it.
and being a leader is to find people who, are the best at what they do. But yeah, I don't have ambition to be at a size whereby we're like servicing, like day to day creative, update this banner, gonna do like, that was my first job. That's what the first job I had was. I done like all the creative for Tesco Bank and SSE, and it was like pet insurance banners. So I know really well that like that's not where I want to be. And I know that's what like 70 to 100 person agency looks like. Um, I think when I look at agencies that I really admire, like Collins, really now Brian Collins now become like a good friend and like confidant to us.
You as well. He's making friends with everybody in Glasgow.
I know. Well, it's funny, a friend of ours messaged Paddy, our design director, the other day, and he was like, I think Brian Collins was just talking about you on the Chris Doe podcast. Yeah, that just like things like that becomes so surreal. I modeled my career and like my jump from being a graphic designer into being, I guess, more than that, and a strategist by religiously watching The Future, and I memorized every word that Chris Doe's ever said. So to have like two titans of industry be talking about us on a podcast, was crazy full circle moment. But when I look at people like that, and I look at maybe Max Ottigan from Ragged Edge, I'm like, I can see that kind of being the world that we'll live in. Still very hands on with the clients that we work in, smaller pools of clients that we're very hands on with, and projects that we're really involved in. So yeah, maybe 15 people probably is needed for the next 6 months. That might go up to 25, but I don't think I'd ever like to get to a point whereby like I'm not involved in the work.
Just get an MD. Get an MD.
I like doing that. We actually really had that conversation early on. And we've got a consulting MD, someone who's coming in to like give us pointers. But yeah, I think that's where we're still figuring out, and that for me is a big part of that evolution and development that I was talking about. Is like, well, what is my continued role in the business? Well, I can't service all the creative and service, all the clients and all the new business and all the MD roles. So, but yeah, bringing on an amazing account manager has done the world from us. We employed a fantastic girl called Ruby who came from One Green Bean in Sydney, and she has taken a lot of the like client service and work off of my job, which has really freed me up to like focus on the business and focus on, well, what does growth look like for us? And not just growth for any growth's sake, but like what does meaningful growth look like for us? And that's what I'm really focused on, and what I think all agencies should be really focused on is, am I growing to be the agency that I want to be? Am I growing to get the clients that I want to get and fulfill the things that I want to do? So yeah, I think next hires for us honestly might look like things like a culture manager who can come in and help manage all our like cultural projects. So we've got like a club night in the world's oldest electronic music club, the Sub Club in Glasgow. It's like one of the top 10 clubs in the world, and for me, that being a part of our agency is like really important.
That's very
And
cool.
like we pride ourselves in being connected to culture, and that's why a lot of our clients come to us. So I think it's really important for us to still connect and be a part of culture in a real meaningful way, because there's a lot of agencies out there that say like, we are a culture focused agency, and I'm like,
what does that
are you?
mean?
I'm like, are you though? Or do you just like selling sneakers to black people? Which is which is what a lot of them really mean. But yeah, like, so for me, I'm like, I think like growing in a cultural way will be really important to us and finding lots of other cool ways that we can, as a design agency, be part of culture and contribute to culture and build a really vibrant creative culture in Scotland.
Do you or any of your team DJ at this club?
I DJ at it.
Oh, I did not
Yes,
know this.
I
Gosh.
DJ at it. Paddy, our design director, does our like artwork, and Danny, our new CGI designer, motion designer. Together, I think we're going to create like an AV show, like a
Wow.
visual show. So yeah, well, those guys will like design it. Danny will program it live. I'll play it. So yeah, looking at things that we can do like that, because that is also growing an agency. That will also be a revenue stream. But yes, it's a great creative outlet and a great thing for us to do as a team as well.
What music do you play?
Oh, a bit of everything. We were talking earlier about dancehall. My other resident DJ at Magic City, he plays like dancehall. I play UKG. I play house. But yeah, just on last Friday we had Flowdan down.
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool. I supported Virgil Abloh. Yeah.
This doesn't surprise me though. I'm acting
Yes.
surprised, but it doesn't surprise me because getting to know you in this conversation, I can tell that you're a man about town. You kind of, you know people, you've got these great connections, and by the sounds of it, you don't just see Too Gallus as a creative studio. You see it as a brand that could be anything.
Yeah, it is absolutely a brand, and that is kind of
Amazing.
where I see it going and expanding into. Is I think we have such an amazing skill set in house that we own internally. So like, why would we not? Why would we not do that for ourselves? Why would we not? And like I was saying about our hosts for 2025 is like looking at what will fulfill all of our staff's like wants from their like creative point of view. I can't fulfill all their live streams, but I can really like play a big part in making them feel like creatively fulfilled. I don't think that comes from client work a lot of the time. I'd say we get to do the cooler client work for sure. Like those little bomb squad projects are always really fun. They're always like amping the creativity up to 110. But yeah, there'll definitely be really cool creative projects that we can do, whether that's like, a fashion line. And, I'd love to host like an immersive dinner event, go and do like an experience somewhere where, we're talking about with Brian Collins about leading like a trip through Scotland with some like, pioneering design thinkers from Scotland and around the world, and creating an experience there. So yeah, that's where I see Too Gallus evolving into it, as we have the skill set to serve as the world's most impactful creative brand. So why would we not become one of the world's most impactful creative brands?
I'm very inspired. It's very infectious hearing your energy and your ambitions, because I can believe it. I can believe it happening. And the name Too Gallus is it a very local Glaswegian thing? I've looked it up. I know what it means, but I'll let you explain to the listeners if they don't know.
So Gallus, to be Gallus in the old Scots term, means to be fit for the gallows, i.e. to be, deserving of execution. But yeah, to be Gallus in Scottish means like you're cheeky, you're daring, you're a bit reckless, you kind of live on the edge, so someone would be like, oh, he's Gallus, him. And my granny always, when I was young, used to always be like, oh, you're too Gallus for your own good. So yeah, when I started, the company actually started as a t-shirt company when I was in university, and it was called Too
Nice.
Gallus Clothing. And yeah, as it evolved, it became my like freelance design agency name, and then it became more like a personal identity, over like, a couple of years, like when I went freelance, after being in agency for like a year or so, people just started to be like, oh, you are Too Gallus. And it was so funny because it was like people were saying that to me, and it was what my gran said to me.
Yeah.
And then I started DJing under that name. So it became a bit of like an owned identity. So yeah, it's
Love
now
it.
like, yeah, the agency is Too Gallus, but yeah, anybody locally, if you said you know who Too Gallus is, they would be like, oh yeah, it's Baz.
Love it. You're in with a cool crowd, Brian Collins and Christo, and you're running a club night. It's amazing. And what are you like as a boss? What would your colleagues say?
Oh, I think they would say that I'm encouraging, like
I was going to say, it
I'm
sounds like it.
reassuring.
Yeah, I can imagine. From what I've heard, I can imagine they would say that because even though, like you say, you're too Gallus, I can't imagine you're like that as a boss.
No, I think like that my goals and like my ambition, and like this is what I think is really interesting. Right? Is like my goals and my ambition are so like lofty, and I'm so laser focused on it because I know I can get it. That people sometimes take it as like a slight to them, which is really funny. Like a lot of people, especially in Scotland in the creative industries, kind of have their like backup about me or about us, and I think it can come off as like, oh, that's like not nice. And I'm like, well, just because I'm like proud of myself and I'm sure of myself, like doesn't mean that you shouldn't be proud of yourself too. I'm actually like a pretty soft, emotional person, if I'm honest. And I
And you're
think I
like,
like,
he's 17, like the
yeah,
rest of us.
exactly. Like I think like I really extend that out to my team, and I like to think that like I try and be as encouraging as I can be. I'm like I really try and give them like a work life balance that they deserve. Like we don't do late nights, we don't do weekends. Doesn't matter how big the pitch is. Like those people are not working over the weekend. Like the people that work for me because I truly believe they are the best creative talent that I can find. Um, and I honestly I sing their praises, like every single one of them. Scott, Ruby, Danny, Stuart, Alan, Fergie, Paddy, like, they work so hard, they're so talented. And I reiterate that to them while they're in work. And yeah, I hope that like that is what comes across like as a boss. I'm trying to like I'm building a team that I really believe in and that I believe are capable of making the next generation's like real leading creative work. And if yeah, yeah, it's funny. I've never thought about that question before. But it's super interesting. But I'm never
Well, you're
disappointed at
leading them.
anybody.
You're leading them to
Um,
safety and to glory. You are the
yeah,
leader.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm just trying to give them all what they deserve, I think, out of their careers.
It's a nice it's a nice way to sort of be motivated in doing what you do. And the other thing I was going to ask, I didn't realise that about Scotland. I thought that was more of a British thing, but you're saying that it's even more frowned upon if you sort of confident, comes across
Oh
as sort of
yeah.
boasting.
Like
I didn't know that about the
we don't
Scots.
like we don't big ourselves up. It should all be
Wow.
very like, yes, I've done this. Oh, I guess it's quite nice. And yeah, I'm like, this is sick. Everyone's like, oh, can't say that, man.
Well,
So, but see, to be honest, like I don't look at the periphery. I'm looking at where we want to go. I'm looking at how the brands that I want to work with talk, and the people that I really, really admire and aspire to be like what do they like and what do they resonate with? And I think, a great confirmation bias is that my circle is people that I really, really look up to. And I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that is a coincidence. The people that I think are the best creatives in the world, I'm very lucky to many of them like call friends and be able to, I could pick up the phone and give them a call. And for me, that's doesn't matter how many people here say, you shouldn't do that, you're not doing things the right way. And trust me, we get a lot of that. We shouldn't be talking about things like that on social, or you shouldn't be as outspoken as you are, because I'm very outspoken. If I don't like something, I'll say it. And I'm like, man, I don't need that advice, because I am getting to where I want to be very quickly in the way that I want to get there. So like, don't worry about how I'm doing stuff. And I think that's like a lesson that everybody should take in, is like, it's a much more fulfilling life to get to somewhere being the way that you want to be, and really authentically being yourself and wearing your heart on your sleeve. And yeah, really championing, what what you stand for. I think if I got to where I want to be by pretending to be someone I wasn't, or acting in a way that didn't feel natural to me, it wouldn't feel as fulfilling as this journey does.
It's a superpower having that confidence, and a lot of people want to see you fail, and that's the case for all of us in life. The sadness of this British Isles, I think it's different in America, where success and growth is celebrated and encouraged. It's something that frustrates me, but it takes a long time for some of us. I mean, I'm talking about myself, to get to that stage where you're like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to be myself, and I'm going to, yeah. But you sound like you've always had that.
Do you know, that's funny. Actually, there was like a really specific turning point in my life where I got that. And it wasn't at all from like business. Was it from business? Could you call it business? So when I actually used to be like pretty shy, pretty dorky, just like honestly like your average run of the mill, like dork from school. And I still am, like, don't get me wrong, I'm still an absolute geek. But yeah, I was like quite shy. It was just like loved anime and played like 600 hours of World of Warcraft. And
yes.
But I was like, yeah, like, honestly, I still, don't get me wrong, I still absolutely live for that stuff.
Oh God,
but
I love it. I love
it. I know, but when I turned 18, I got a job for a local club night called Octo. It was in the Arches, and it was just like a crazy like student like club night. And I probably had like no business working there, but I went for a job interview. And the girls were just like, yeah, you seem fun. Like, fuck it. I think they just took a punt on me and employed me. And it just like totally brought me out my shell. Like, they would just like give us like a case of vodka, a speaker, some glow sticks, some glow paint. And this was during like peak Skins era.
Oh,
and they would send us up to student halls, and they would just be like, not in freshers. And they'd be like, knock on the door, and someone will let you throw a party in their flat, and that was my Wednesday nights. So, and I went from like having like, 5 friends, a really small like social circle at school where we just like read manga together, to like this, to just being forced, like, we'd do PR shifts like 5 nights a week, and I just built up this like ability to just go up and speak to people. You just like,
amazing.
Yeah, it started off you giving them flowers, and then like eventually everyone starts to know you, and then like the more people know you and talk to you, the more comfortable you get going up and talking to people who don't know you. So now like it just totally instilled this like whole new confidence in me, where I'm like, okay, if someone might not take a flyer off me, that's fine. And that's extended kind of right up into, if I send, the CMO of a huge, luxury global beauty company an email, she might not reply, but she might, and it's like, it's funny. I can really notice that as like a personality, like changing point for me, like tipped me over the edge and like brought me out my shell, made me really confident, gave me the confidence to approach people, to speak to people, to like not be afraid of rejection, and how to just be like, cool, next, move on.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and that totally came from there. It's funny, like I speak about that every time I do, like I'm invited to go and speak to like unis and stuff quite a lot, like classes of kids and schools, and I always say to them, like, find something that will put you out your comfort zone, find something that will push you like personally, even if it's just like joining a club or like go and travel, or something that will make you get out of the space that you're in, because it will like evolve you as a person. And it is honestly a really, really important thing running a business. Like there's a lot of creative companies doing a lot of really, really incredible work that would benefit from just being able to shout about it more, or like not being afraid to say like we're shit hot.
Well, you are too Gallus, Barrington Reeves, and I think I can safely say that in the confines of this conversation.
Yeah,
and it's got you places, and it's almost like you've got out of the way of yourself, found yourself, and are now dedicated to this vision. What's the ultimate goal? And I am wrapping things up now, but what is that kind of shining star that you have your eyes on? Is it always changing? Is it a sort of personal thing or?
So I think it's like twofold, because there is like myself and the agency. I would love to create an agency or group that acts as like a creative like incubator. I have some of the best talent in the world in my office as far as I'm concerned, and I would love to see them be able to fill their career ambitions through it. So I would love to get to a point of financial mobility whereby we can do that. As our 3D team's goal to like lead, a bigger 3D team as, my design director. My design director was probably one of the most talented graphic designers in the world. And I know he's capable of so much. And I think there's probably a point whereby he will lead more of the graphic design studio side of things. And the agency, will have that kind of cultural hub that is actioning lots of amazing little creative projects, whether that be like clothing lines, experiences, club nights, events. And then for me, I want to take that creative energy and just continue to, to pour it into different things. So I would love to, Virgil Abloh is a very like lofty goal, but that's probably like the best summary of like what I could envision as like a career goal. He really like got to touch architecture, furniture. He had a creative agency. He was the creative director of Louis Vuitton. And for me, it's like I really see my creative output as being so widespread. I'm really interested in all facets of design, and I would love to get my career to a place whereby, I can dip in and out of different types of different projects and different disciplines and really have a really varied creative portfolio of work to show for at the end, because it's really fulfilling for me. But ultimately, like if I just got to do what I'm doing right now for the next 30 years, like I wake up every morning with like a smile on my face. I'm never ever sad to go to work. I'm always happy to see my team. I'm very blessed and very grateful for the people that I have around me and for the trust that my clients put in me. And yeah, if that's all I got to do, I would still count myself as a very, very lucky person. But yeah, for me, I really want to touch the heights of global design and every facet, I guess.
Yeah, well, they say the only thing that's in our way is ourselves. So I can't imagine that won't be possible. So thank you, Barrington,
Thanks so much for having me on.
Joining us today. It's just been so fascinating. And I'm sure I'm not the only person out there who's thinking, right, bugger, what do I do? How can I need to go and like sort myself out and do more things. There's so much more possibilities now I've chatted with you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
That was Barrington Reeves of Too Gallus in Glasgow, turning everything upside down and doing some amazing and unexpected things despite the studio's size. There's a democratisation going on in the creative industry. I'm sure many of you have noticed a levelling of the playing field thanks to technology, resourcefulness, a shift in client expectations, and hey, the economy. Studios like Too Gallus are proof that small agile teams can punch well above their weight and deliver work that's bold, impactful, and really connected to culture. Barrington's perspective on recognising your limits while still dreaming big really resonated with me. It's a refreshing reminder that success doesn't always mean scaling up. It's about leaning into what makes you unique and making the most of what you have. And there's plenty more appetite these days for studios willing to push forward. So I hope you found today's conversation as inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your creative friends. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Also, a quick reminder, we've got The Spark coming up this Thursday, our new bite-sized bonus episode, so be sure to tune in for that. Until then, have a great week.